National Fire Radio.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Size Up Podcast by National Fire Radio, because what you do off the job matters. And it is like a beyond chilly morning here in scenic Allentown, New Jersey, where I am recording. And it stinks. Today is the day that reminds me why I kind of disdain winter a little bit, because it's just so cold. Like, I'm definitely happy I'm not at the firehouse today, because just cold days at the firehouse just make it kind of even harder to do our jobs, as does the extreme heat. But for some reason, the extreme cold is just more miserable than anything. Like, when you step out of that rig, especially too, if you go like warm rig to a call and then you don't get out of the warm rig and then you're going to back in, and we get out to stop traffic and to hook up our Plimo vent when we back in, and it just stinks. Like, that opening the door and that brisk cold just to go back into the firehouse is just horrible, as I am here complaining about the cold and my career. But one thing, I don't know if you kind of picked up, I said it really quickly. We have Plimo vent systems in my fire department, like all should, even though I know people are not picking up their diesel exhaust like they should. I mean, it's unreal that there's still firehouses without some form of a diesel exhaust system. But one thing we do is one person always goes inside and hooks it back up on the way back in. Because, and I feel like when I got hired all those years ago, we definitely did not do it as much. And I don't know why we didn't think about it as like being, well, we hook it up when we pull out to keep the diesel exhaust from filling the bay. Why don't we hook it up on the way back in? And especially in my firehouse, you know, it's my firehouse is super old. It's getting close to 100 years old. We have open pole wells and open stairwells up to the upstairs sleeping area, which again is like super no in brand new firehouse building these days. But it's just another thing that we've been actively doing in my department, you know, to just keep that nastiness away from us, right? Like, it's like one of those things when someone turns on the CO meter in the firehouse and the car has been running for a little bit or something, and you're like, oh, there's high CO levels down here on the bay. But anyway, I digress. It's just interesting that I bring up, you know, super cold, kind of some cancer stuff, because my guest today is from a very super cold place, like all the time, in my opinion, probably. I think they have summer up there, but I'm not really sure how it all works. And we can probably learn about that today too. And she is very much into a lot of the things I am into with fitness and cancer prevention these days. And we got to hang out a bit a few years back at FDIC and have some fun together out there. And I've been following her on social media. And in our little pre-talk, she's like, I've been following you forever on social media too, which again always scares me that people follow me on social media, even though I know they do. And I've met so many people on it, but I'm like, why do you follow me? Like, yeah, I got a podcast and I did the whole not-for-profit thing, but like, why do you follow me? But anyway, Genna, how are you today? Genna with a G too. Let's get that out there real quick, because
Yeah,
I
let's
don't know
get
if I
that
know
out
any
there.
Jennas with a G.
Yeah,
How are
I'm
you?
good. Thanks for having me on here today. Yeah, I'm good.
No worries. So Genna with a G.
Genna with
Do
the
you get
G.
Gemma a lot?
I
Do you
get
get Gemma a
Gemma,
lot?
I get Gina, sometimes I get Gina. I think my parents were trying to be unique and take it off of Genevieve, but or Genevieve as the Canadians dub it. So
Do you speak French as well where you are? Again, my
yeah,
Canadian is not very good.
yeah, my French isn't great, but it's part of our curriculum where I am, because Ottawa is right, like it's just a river separating us and the province of Quebec. So we part of our curriculum in school is French. So we learn both
But we're
official languages.
Quebec, as you say it, or I would say Quebec, because, you know, it's just what we say here. So that is mostly French speaking, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I would say they're probably like 85% French speaking, especially the more northern you go in Quebec.
So on the job, do you find a lot of French speakers that you need almost like a French translator? Like, I know it's in your curriculum and everybody kind of should know it, but like, is that a thing you guys run into a lot? It's something I never really thought about.
Yeah, I think too, being the nation's capital, we have a plethora of different languages, but definitely French. Like, to be a dispatcher or a call taker, you have to have French. There's a French test as part of their the dispatch
Wow.
test to become a dispatcher. And I would say the majority of us can get by, and with French, but we do have a lot of bilingual people on our job. So it's not a requirement, but it seems like probably 75% of our job is fluently bilingual.
That's awesome. I mean, like being bilingual when, again, going way back into my high school days. I mean, I took 4 years of Spanish between high school and college, but my Spanish is horrible. It's horrible. Ambulance Spanish is the easiest way I can explain it. But being bilingual with any language is just so needed in society now. And having just gone to Australia, where again, they speak the same language, just different is an easy way to put it. But there were so many people there speaking so many different multiple languages. It was unreal in the city, at least.
Yeah, for sure. I find it's like it just gives you a little bit of confidence that you at least know a little bit what's going on or what people are saying when you travel.
Well, definitely when you're traveling, and again, look, even at work, like having your cell phone on you and Google Translate, like, we have in the community I work in, a lot of people speak Spanish, and there's varying dialects of Spanish from South America too, which we're running into more and more recently, that guys are like, I have no idea what they're saying. Or Portuguese is becoming way more prevalent in our area. And so we have a lot of guys that speak Spanish, and then there's someone speaking Portuguese to them, and they're like, I can't even help, like I got
It's like
three
it's
words of that,
close,
and I'm
but
like,
not.
cool, it's close but not. Yeah, so we're using Google Translate on our phones to be like, hey, what did you just say, type of a thing. Or if they call on the phone, calling dispatch and getting a language line tie-in. But it's such a thing that in the past, in the fire service and EMS, no one even really worried about as much as we have to
Yeah,
worry about now.
yeah, exactly.
God, who knew this was really turning into an international episode without any plans here,
I
right?
like
Let's get two firefighters talking about language and
it.
interpretation. On the same point too, though, my older son is started high school this year. My boys have had Spanish since grammar school, and he got to go for, like, from 8th grade to 9th grade. So for us, high school to or middle school to high school, he got like honors Spanish, and he's like, no, I don't want to take it. I'm going to learn Italian. And I was
Wow.
just like, buddy, like you could just, like, listen, I'm all proud that he's learning Italian because that's like our
Yeah.
heritage and things. But I'm like, bro, like, trust me, Spanish is going to help way more in life. Nope, I want to take Italian. So now he's getting, 100 in Italian. And I'm like, what can you say to me in Italian? He's got nothing. He's got
Yeah.
nothing. Like,
That's
just
so
like me.
neat that he's into that.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting to see he wanted to make the switch. I don't know. It's just one more thing. But he is not like me. He's like his mom, super smart. So maybe he will be multilingual at some point in his life. Anyhow, so beyond that, and our language talk here, so you're up in Ottawa and you're growing up, and somehow at some point you were like, I want to ride on the little red trucks because they're so much smaller than the ones we have here. So we won't call them the big red trucks. But
Yeah.
when did that all occur? Like, you're being brought up in the fire service. Like, how did you get yourself into this emergency services role?
Yeah, so a little bit. I had some great uncles that were firefighters in Toronto. So after they served their time with the Canadian Army and came back, they joined the fire service. And I grew up on a farm, so I was always kind of physical, and I always was drawn to physically demanding or different jobs that had I couldn't sit in a classroom to learn. I loved to learn by like hanging out with my dad in the shop or out on the farm and that type of thing. So I was always drawn to that kind of field of work. And probably when I was grade 6, I announced to my family that I was going to be a firefighter. Like that's what I was going to do. And it ended up becoming, like, although it skipped a bit of a generation with my great uncles, I didn't have any uncles that did it, but my brother is a firefighter in Ottawa as well. My husband is a firefighter in Ottawa. I've got a cousin who's on the job. Her husband is on the job. So we've really kind of like, this generation didn't
You got
skip
it back.
a beat. Yeah, we drew it back in pretty hard. So that's,
I was so ready to ask you, like, were they great uncles or like great uncles? Like, I didn't
yeah,
know if
like
you meant
great.
like an uncle that skipped a generation, or they were just great because they were firefighters. So you had that whole generation skip. So they were like wooden ladders and horses almost type of generation.
Yeah.
Not horses, but open cab engines and things like that generation.
Yeah, and they had such an impact on my mom growing up. She talked about them all the time. So it was just, I think that kind of, you learn about their character and the things that they did, and that's just like, oh, it sounds so exciting. And it sounds like an exciting career and journey that they were on. And yeah, I like never looked back. I joined the volunteer fire department back in 2002 and was all in. Like most people, when they first start, you're just like, you're in it
Ready
24/7,
to go.
365. And then I made the switch to full time in 2011.
That's awesome. And we talk a lot about, and especially, Jeremy with National Fire Radio, but I get to dabble in it with my guests too. And it's that like tradition of the fire service, right? And that like almost legacy, right? And your mom was able to capture your uncle's joy of the job, right? I guess is a good way to put it. And almost and then definitely instill it in you and I guess your brother as well. But when you think about that impact that you can have to skip a generation, like you hear that a lot. Like, my great grandfather was a fire, or my grandfather was a firefighter. My dad wasn't. But like listening to his stories, or like even an uncle is even further removed, or uncles. But when you think about that and you think about the importance of our job and just not adhering to the traditional way we do things, but to that tradition of loving it, is so amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think it's so neat that she was able to pass that on to us through stories, and we can hopefully share that with our kids, and hopefully they'll follow along if they get as excited about it as we all are, and just keep it
See,
going.
my kids are super excited still about their dad being a firefighter, but in no way, shape, or form want anything to do with being a firefighter.
Yeah, my guy's a
Like,
bit the
not even
same.
close.
Yeah, he's 23 now, so he's on his own journey with he's an arborist, so that's kind of
Okay.
his path. But you never know, you can always kind of loop back around in some way, or hopefully he'll join the local volunteer department or something like that. He's thought about that as a way to give back and get some experience and learn about it.
Well, especially too, being an arborist, that lends to the wildland side of our career. That again is currently to the forefront, at least in America, with everything that happened in the Los Angeles area, and even for you guys with the fires you had last year that, were causing smoke here in New Jersey.
I know,
So you
wasn't
see
that
so
wild?
many. It was unbelievable. Like my department, I wasn't working, but like the first day-ish of it, before it was like a well-known thing, my department did like 32 alarms for smoke conditions, type of a thing where like the guy they didn't know what to do. I guess no one knew what to do at that point. And then I'm a little further south from where I work, but 2 days later I woke up to like almost not being able to see my neighbor's house. Was how unreal it was to think that that could happen, right?
Wild.
And we've had some pretty larger, we call them brush fires, but wildland fires down near where I live, and the smoke from those was even nothing compared to this. This was like that eye choking smoke for folks. It was definitely different, and just holy cow, who knew this could happen, right?
Yeah, exactly. From so far away.
But it's good for him, like in that arborist career too. And it's always a good. I don't want to call it a backup because it should never be a backup career, but like it's always a good thing to fall back on, right? That you know enough about the service.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And it's kind of neat because these the wildfires going on and the fires in LA right now, they are looking for arborist teams and stuff to help. So it is kind of neat that he is following along with what's going on down there, but from his field. So it's neat to see how the two kind of collide in different ways, cross paths.
Yeah, and it's such an interesting field. And again, thank you, sort of social media for this, because like I have an arborist, like we've had some trees cut down. I follow him on social media, and I find myself oddly interested watching him. And then I follow a few other like wildland firefighter slash arborist cut down trees. Like it's oddly calming to me to watch. I want nothing to do with doing this, like aside from a
Yeah.
little bit of tree work around there. But like it's this oddly weird thing that appears in my, now we talked about it, it's definitely going to appear in my social media feed, but like you see these folks doing this job and I'm just like, this is unreal how cool this job is, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that is neat. And we always think we have the coolest job, so it's neat to find other professions out there that we're like intrigued by because you know.
Yeah, no, when you see things like that and you're like, oh my God, this is so cool that there's someone else out there doing this job that I find so interesting. And it could be the simplest thing. So, yeah, when we think about being firefighters, we have this amazing job, don't we? We're like, coolest job in the world, best job in the world. But then you find other folks like arborists or like crab fishermen or anyone else. Like, I just like watching people do what they do, right?
Yeah, anyone that has like something they're passionate about, it's like it's pretty exciting to watch them do it. And when it's a craft, like when it's something like, that you're so is so foreign to us, there it's really exciting to watch.
I think it's not even just the watching, right? It's like the appreciating their craft and what they do, just like we appreciate each other's craft, right? Like
Yeah.
I know we do a lot of things the same way, but we also do them very differently depending on where you work and how your department is set up. You're in a much larger department than I am in, and you are able to do things differently than we are. And appreciating that, I feel like, is something that just can make us better at everything we do.
Yeah, 100%. Like I've always found that throughout your career, however it starts or progresses with the fire department, you find those situations or those people or those things along the way that you're just kind of like picking from to make your own best practices. And it really is like an appreciation for the craft because you see how someone else does something, you're like, oh man, like that was really effective. Like that is something I want to now try and do, or that person has a certain leadership style or way about them, tactically, or how they're making decisions, and you want to try and emulate that when you get into those positions. So I think it is really neat to kind of, and that's what makes it a craft, right? And an appreciation of it.
Yeah. And then when you can do that for someone else who's not in your industry, right? Like I'm hoping there's folks out there in other industries looking at us as the fire service, like, "Oh, maybe I can bring that into my industry." And the same thing when it comes to an arborist or a chef or, I don't know, I think of 8 million different things, but it's so cool, those kind of things together. And as I know, as my career has spanned and I've gotten to meet so many different people, I've gotten to pick from different things that I've learned from them and bring it into my department. Some have worked, some have definitely not.
That's the beauty of it, though.
Isn't it? And it's what keeps us evolving. Listen, I talk about this again a lot here, but like, I love the tradition. I love the throwback stuff. And keeping that in the forefront is great. But we also need to evolve, and we need to evolve with what's around us. And I feel like we're doing that, but there's
Yeah.
definitely some folks out there trying to take us a few steps back.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
But it's always good to know too when you meet a firefighter from another country. And again, our countries are connected. So it's not like when I was in Australia meeting firefighters on the other side of the world, but we all have this common bond of hopefully wanting to make our department and our service better, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. It's that whole like mantra of leave it better than you found it. And it's kind of hard when you first start to even think that that's possible, because when you start, you're just so much like, well, this is amazing. Like, how could I possibly make it better? But it's all through your actions and how you help teach the new recruit or the probie and the things that you learn along the way. And I think that, yeah, evolving and growing, and I think that's an exciting part of the career that you don't necessarily realize at the start. But maybe like around the 5-10 year mark, you start to think, okay, now I understand what that captain was telling me when they said leave it better than you found it. Or, always be out there volunteering to do things to better the public image of the fire department. And you always want to be kind of fostering that love for the job in a positive way.
Well, it's something too you've kind of mentioned twice now, and I love talking about this because when we do have new folks, right, they are so excited and so enthusiastic and so overwhelmed at the same time, right? Because we're literally throwing everything we can at them. And just in an episode a few weeks ago, Mickey Farrell talked about being a rookie and stepping on the wrong side of the mop bucket and flipping it over in the bunk, right? Because he was just so excited, happy to be there, anxious, right? Where we can't realize that until about that 5 or 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I had the opportunity recently to go and help with a drill class. So they were looking for people to come into the training center, help out for 16 weeks. And I'm telling you, if any departments offer that, it is such a great way to kind of get like not that I needed to be re-excited, but to kind of see where people are coming in at and to see that like, you know, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, excited individual. It was really a contagious environment, and it just helped you be a better teacher and leader because everyone's kind of feeding off each other's energy, and you're having that impact on them at the very beginning of their career. And it was just such a really cool opportunity. I'm glad I took the opportunity. We kind of a bit of a stigma about going into different divisions other than suppression in Ottawa. It's like, oh,
Sure.
those that can't do
In any
teach
fire
and
department.
whatever. Yeah, so it's tough, but it was what a great opportunity, and I just loved it. And you hope that you can kind of feed off them, but give them a little bit of what you've learned along the way so that they have a successful, happy, fun career too that they can be proud of.
Now, being able to be a part of a recruit class, I've been fortunate. I was assigned early into being promoted into assist with one on like a full-time basis for their recruit academy. And again, going in, I mean, first I was happy to be promoted. So let's get that part out of the way, right? And I was not happy to be going into help the recruit class at the time because you want to stay in suppression, right? You want to do what you're doing, but being able to be a part of that and grow with it. And it was in the earlier days of my department doing our own recruit training. It was kind of like a hybrid thing we were doing. As opposed to now where we do our own recruit training. And I have not been reassigned yet to a class because I really don't want to be again. But I've gotten to do the better job where you just get to come in and kind of work with them here and there, because we
Yeah.
need more instructors for live burn days, or we need Pip, you're into extrication, so you could teach the extrication part of this. And when you go do that, you see a different side of your department and you see a different side of those recruits, right? Especially when they come to you, if they come to your station. I don't know if when you bump back to suppression, if any of those folks were with you in your station there, but you see that and it just is, it's like that reigniting yourself for the passion of the job, right? And you need it because it's exciting. It's like, and especially like when you get to go work live burns with them, whether they mess up or they do really good, you're still on that where you're like, man, I kind of remember what this was like. It's unreal that from our record date a week from today, I'll have 21 years on the job starting the academy with my recruit class. And I can still remember very specific things that occurred in that academy class that I'll never forget as being a young firefighter.
For sure. And like the little things that you did and you're like, "Oh man, I can't believe I did that," or "I can't believe I found the one thing when I first hit the stations after academy, I was like shocked how fast people moved, because you're just where did that officer go? Like the air brakes just get pulled and all of a sudden they're gone and you're like, okay, this is a totally different world. Like I gotta be fast. And that was one of the biggest things I noticed. I was like, man, these old guys move fast.
I love it that you called us the old guys too. And I had a rookie maybe like 7 or 8 years ago. And I don't know, like one of his very early shifts, we had a car fire, literally like make it right out of you could see it from the firehouse type of a car fire. And like we were gone. Myself and my other firefighter were like ready to go. And I'm even looking at the pump operator. I'm like, where is this kid at? And like
Yeah.
afterwards, he was like, you guys are so fast. How did you do that? And again, he was just totally blown away by the ability to just do that. And I'm like, don't worry, man. In a couple years, you'll be up there with us, right?
Yeah, you'll get there.
But you gotta love that part of it, right? And again, that fact that it's not just in my department; it happens in your department, big, small,
Yeah,
whatever you're doing.
yeah, it's everywhere. We're all the same. That's another thing that makes it so great, right? Like we're all a very similar type of individual.
Yes. And two, like again, like being a female firefighter, I know your department is what at least my impression is very diverse, right? From what I see in most Canadian departments.
Yeah, we're definitely getting there. I don't know what the numbers would be now. It's funny because like certain divisions like dispatch used to be heavily female, and now I would say they're probably 50-50 in there because, it's a great opportunity to learn something about the department and the job to then switch over to suppression. So I would say, gosh, we have 975 members. We probably have 65, 70 women now, like full time in suppression. At least, like somewhere around there. Definitely less
Yeah,
than
yeah.
100, but we're,
Closer to 100. But again, you're
yeah,
moving in that direction, right?
yeah.
And okay, so my heart feels really nice because you keep mentioning dispatch, and I did work as a dispatcher prior to being a firefighter in the forgotten field, let's call it, where we just hate them. Like now I hate them. Even though I try to stand up for the dispatchers because I was one, I still have to be like, no, they never listen to us and all the things
Yeah,
that, we say about them, right? But like you've mentioned it a few times now, and again, they are the voice on the other side of the radio. They are the initial person that takes the alarm, and they do deal with that stress in their own way. And it's interesting too. This is the first time I've ever heard someone say using like being a dispatcher as a stepping stone job into the fire service almost, where most people come from EMS into there. But do you guys see a lot of that, like people starting their career that way and then transitioning over?
yeah, we do because it's a position that's within our association. So you become a union member if you get
Okay.
hired in dispatch. So you can then transition after a certain amount of time. For suppression, you still have to have your firefighter one and firefighter two and go through that process. But internally, once you're in dispatch, you can apply to fire prevention or investigations as well because you're a bargaining unit member. So it is a really, we do have that they do get some movement either throughout that organization in dispatch, they become shift supervisors or assistant deputies or chiefs, but then they also can go into investigations or prevention. And then they can also come into suppression if they have the qualifications. So,
That's pretty cool. I mean, it's again, I love learning about different things, and again, hearing that is just something new that I've never heard before. So go dispatchers. That's right.
yes, go dispatchers. They're such an
I
important
kind of
part. I think people all often forget, like, they are literally the ones that are hearing the things that we can't hear each other saying over the radio. Like, they're such an important piece of the puzzle that I do feel that they kind of get the raw deal sometimes.
I didn't I mean again, I was young when I was doing that job, but like I didn't necessarily appreciate it as much then because again, you're just, it's not that it's monotonous because every call is different, but it is very monotonous in the way of like what you're normally doing. And I was a part of a few like major incidents and then a few major issues too, let's say that came up. Like one night we lost all power to the dispatch center. You're supposed to have an uninterrupted power source, right? Well,
Yeah.
that went down and we were like, whoa, there's not a plan for this. Like the plan is the UPS turns on and we keep working. And, my partner and I made a plan. I was sitting in the back of an ambulance with like 4 radios dispatching in front of our station somehow, some way. But you don't really think about it. And I think too, and now they're being more appreciated or more highlighted, I should say, for that
Yeah.
important role that they play.
Yeah, I think so.
And that could also be too with technology and recordings and things, as we were the ones who were always recorded. Now everybody's recorded. So you have
Yeah.
that as
Yeah,
well.
that's true.
All right. So we're crushing job talk here. And this isn't even the reason. See, it's like I told you, we just kind of start going and talking and talking and talking. But the reason that I like you've been on my radar as a guest, because like you said, we've been following each other for a while and you appear in my feed. But the other day I saw that you had recently completed this epic fitness challenge at Walt Disney World called so you did the Dopey
Did the
challenge, right?
dopage.
Yeah, which is it's on my radar, but let the folks know before we really get down to the nitty-gritty questions about this. What is the Dopey challenge?
So the Dopey Challenge is a series of 4 days, 4 races. So it's 48.6 miles. So you start with on the
Okay.
Thursday, you do a 5K. And then the Friday, you do a 10K. Then the Saturday, you do a half marathon. And then Sunday, you wrap it all up with a full marathon.
Because why not?
It's insanity. This is the second time I've done it. I would say this
Oh my
time went
God.
a lot better than the last time, but it's kind of a bit of an addiction because you end up feeling so wrecked by the end of the weekend
Oh my God.
because a lot of these races start early in the morning because it's before the parks open or while they can have the roads closed. So you're getting up at 2:30 in the morning for 4 days in a row and starting running at like 5 o'clock or 4:30 on marathon day. So they're early mornings, and it is something to be a part of for sure. The first time I did it, I'm like, never again. And then the next year, like major FOMO for not doing it. So then this year I was like, I'm doing it. I don't care. So I signed up for a charity bib. I ran for a charity that raises money for um, people who have hereditary cancers. And so I ran for Team Force this year, which was pretty exciting and gave me a little bit of like extra motivation through marathon day. So yeah, so it's a 4 day, 48.6 mile adventure.
It definitely is an adventure. And so for my non, running fans out there, Disney is known for their races, in Florida, in all their parks, but Florida definitely has like, I would say at least like aside from marathon weekend, like 10 to 15 like serious races each year that you can put on your calendar easily, with marathon weekend in January being like the culmination of the year, kind of, or the start of the year, maybe, of their race season. And they do put on a really good race. Having been someone who ran the Disney, only the marathon, I only did the marathon.
Okay, nice.
I learned about this challenge. So it's interesting. You ran this year, and the weather was not very nice this year for you, was it?
It was nice for me. It was not nice for other people.
Good
So
point.
it was, I guess, like 3 degrees my temperature. I think it was around like 28 to like these
Sure, that's
for
probably about right. 30.
you
Yep.
guys. So it was like ideal running weather, but definitely like standing around waiting, cold. It rained the morning of the half. So you're just like in Mylar, just like standing in the rain, waiting for it to start. But then the rain stopped, so that was good. But yeah, it was definitely chilly for people this year.
So my wife was like wigging out though at the social media post, because there were some misinformation out there, I guess, where it was like it was going to be the first time it snowed in Disneyland in 50 years, which we know for a fact is 100% not true, because how old is my son? In 2010, my lovely pregnant wife followed me around the marathon course in the snow, because it snowed
No,
when I ran the Disney marathon.
my gosh.
It was
It would
horrible. The
not have been
start,
ready for that.
the 4:30, they were 100% not ready for that. So the start of the race was 18 degrees, and the finish was like 24 degrees, my temperature. It was miserable. Like it's why I didn't get my 4-hour marathon, because the cold broke me.
Yeah.
And again, I had been running in the cold and snow, but just not the cold that it was down there. It was horrible.
It's a different cold, eh? It's not as
And
it's wet.
it's like it's not supposed to be cold, and even the like Mother Earth doesn't know what to do with itself in Florida type of a cold. And so, being you were in Disney in the cold, we learned a few things about Disney in the cold. Like, none of the stores have heat, so, because why do you need heat in Disneyland? But they're also all concrete floors. And so when you walked in from the street to a store, right, it was exactly the same temperature. There was like no respite from the cold.
Yeah. And like good luck finding a sweatshirt because sold out everywhere. If you didn't pack for it, it didn't exist.
We
Yeah.
had My sister and brother-in-law came down to watch me in the race. We sent them to our house to get more clothes, because even though we knew it was going to be cold, we didn't pack for that. We're like, I was like, I need this for my running bag. I need this for my running bag type thing, because it was
Yeah.
miserable.
Yeah. It makes it hard to pack. It makes it hard to like, a lot of people you would have seen the marathon distance, maybe not so much, but like there's a lot of costuming that goes into some of those other races. So for people, it was like, oh,
Yes.
how am I gonna make this all work? But I
I'm gonna
would,
be Tinkerbell and Peter Pan. It's
yeah,
not warm. That costume is not
not
warm.
warm. No, The marathon though this year, like I loved the course layout. It was so good. And yeah, that temperature was like just perfect for marathon running where your muscles didn't get too cold that you were worried about like tweaking anything. And it wasn't too hot. Like it was just beautiful.
So
I
for
don't
the non-runners out there too, what Jenna's kind of saying is like when you're running distance like a marathon, like I like to say like between 40 and 60 degrees my temperature is ideal running temperature. Like with the sun. You always want the sun. The sun is your friend when running long distances,
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And like with the Dopey, it's all about a game plan too. I did the 5K with my mom. She's 68, so she did the 5K with me. And so that was like a good pace, reasonable. My dad, he's 69, he was doing the 10K. So I ran at his pace and it was a good pace for him. The half, I kind of took it easy so that I still had something in the tank for the full because I had done a full in November in Savannah. And between mile 18 and 20, I was literally questioning every life decision that I'd ever made. Like it like annihilated
It's the
me.
wall. It's
Oh my
so true.
gosh. It was so crazy because at first I was like, okay, it's just a mental wall. I can get through a mental wall. But then I was having like a little bit of pain like behind my knees. And then it nearly crushed me. Thankfully, then I got a text from my husband who was like virtually following me, being like, you're almost there, and so kind of like got me going again. But the thing I love about those distances is it really is like it's seeing what your body can do, but also like mentally, like I think it's great for building resilience. You have to really like be at peace with yourself and in your own mind for that amount of time. Like it's something special and crazy all at the same time.
I love the way you describe that. Something special and crazy. Because again, the Disney Marathon broke me. It around that mile like 19 part, I was broke. And I've talked about it a little bit before, but like I was having such issue getting through that mental block that I actually thought about quitting. And what kind of kept me going. I didn't get the text from Tracy because, and I've said this again on another podcast, but my wife never saw me or I never saw my wife in the Disney Marathon. I think she saw me once.
Yeah.
Where we were supposed to meet, she was not there, or I didn't see her, or I was so cold, I couldn't see through my eyes at that point. Whatever type of a thing it was, like, and it was really disheartening. But the fact that she was pregnant Finn was born in June, so she was 6 months pregnant, following me around this course, kind of kept me going. But I did have a total freak out moment that I don't think I've ever talked about. And it
No.
was in Hollywood Studios. Oh yeah, I lost it. And some poor person kind of took the brunt of it, but I think understood where I was at it, where I'll never forget this. And it's these things that like you talk about, like that are these mental challenges, right? We were in Hollywood Studios and it was on like the tour bus ride part of the trail where like you're on that, and there was candy. And I was so excited. I'm like, yes, chocolate will get me through. And I just reached my hand in and pulled out whatever I could and kind of kept running and then looked down. And I have a tree nut allergy. And I literally pulled out every piece of candy with nuts in it, with tree nuts in it. And I lost it. I was like, and I threw the candy down, and I must have continued my New Jersey cursing rant. And this man next to me looked over and he was like, bro, I'm so sorry. Here, have some of mine. And then he like turned and opened his hand and saw that he had all nuts in his bars too and just took off. Like we must have both went to like not read like nut free, nut table, whatever you want to say. I swear to God, Jenna, he sprinted away from me, like gone in the distance. And I
He
was
didn't want
just
to
like,
deal with it. That's too funny.
he didn't want to deal with me. He was fighting his own battle. Yeah. But you get through those battles, and, Disney's hardcore too, right? Because they need to get those parks open when they say the parks are going to be open. And so they have the sweeper bus, which most marathons have. If you're not keeping a certain time, you get pulled into the bus. But in Disney, there is no like you're literally jumping in that bus, right?
Oh yeah, that's it. Like they've got those two ladies that have balloons tied to them that you can kind of look at, and they are keeping like the end pace. And if you get too far behind them, then you're on the bus. Like
Yeah,
crazy.
like the Mickey Mouse police just like sweep you up. Like literally, I think they probably just like grab you if you refuse to come in. Like you get
I
tackled in the
think
bus.
so. Yeah, it is like it's funny because a lot of people are like, "Oh, the Disney race, like, it must just all be fun." And it is really fun, but the marathon course specifically, like they only have the one in January and it is a Boston qualifier. So it is like legitimate distances, legitimate races. And I think what I really liked about the first Disney race I did was like in 2015, and I think it was like just seeing every walk of life individual there like participating was so motivating for me. It was like, yeah, you had your runners, but you had your like everyday kind of like Joe athlete, and then you had your people who this was their first time, or like fitness is really new to them and they were going to be walking that distance. But it's still so impressive to see these people and you're like, you're going to walk a half marathon? Like that's not an easy thing. Like it's a far enough distance for people.
Oh,
So I
it's
love that about it.
it's
Like
not fun.
it feels like such a unique group of people that I don't know, I really like the community around it because it's when you are suffering, someone's either going to offer you something you can't have and take off, or they're going to be there to like, what can I get you? And, everyone's going through it at the same time. And it's just, I think that's a really neat kind of aspect of the distance community or running community.
It is a very different race, and you're just so Canadian in the way you nicely describe those folks as unique folks that are there, because you do have your sect of like Disney freak people that are there. And yes, I said it, internet, like where they are like super Disney, like I'm gonna run this marathon dressed as Captain Hook, or I'm gonna stop at, I don't know how the people that stop at every character to take a picture actually make the time cut. I feel like they must be the fastest.
Well, I think if you're in like the front two corrals, it's easy because there's no lines. But then, like, there's this woman from Utah that I follow on Instagram. I think she just turned 40. Absolutely like incredible athlete, and stopped at every photo and still had like finished in the top 10 for all females in like the majority of the distances that she did. She did the Dopey, and it's just like so incredible. Like you have to be at the front
It's
where
like a
there's
freak of nature. Like, yeah.
yeah, I'm like, who is this woman? How does she train the rest of us? Like she is incredible. And so it's just really neat. I think that if you're in the front, you can just kind of like dive in, get a picture, scoot back out. But if you're later on, it's tough. Like those lines can get long.
Thanks for the cut too, Genna, because there were always lines for the characters. So clearly I suck at running, in your opinion, because there were always lines when I was there. So I was not in the front whatsoever, because
Oh, I've been in like
there were
it also
lines
depends
for
where they
everyone.
it depends where they place you. I've been placed in G Corral before, and you're like, first of all, I'm never going to see a character because I've got like 10,000 people to get in front of me to get past, There's a lot
To
of
get
people.
around to go. No, there is. It's such a great, like I did have a blast, and I do think when I get back into marathoning in a few years that I'm definitely running the Disney again for redemption, like to
Yeah,
get that sub 4 if I can. Granted, I'm a lot older these days, and I have to understand that my pace is not going to be the same as it was unless I can. I don't know what I'm going to do. But I think it's unique too, when you run, and you had said about the Dopey kind of just crushing you, you know, being able to slow yourself down, right? Because you have to know that I'm running a 5K today and a 10K tomorrow and a half marathon and a marathon. So how hard was that for you as an athlete to kind of
really
definitely
hard.
have to slow down a bit?
Yeah, really hard because that's what I think that's what I didn't do 2 years ago when I did it. I was like every race I was trying to go out and see how fast I could get, and I'm wasting energy cutting around people and just no concept of like what I should have been doing. And then in November, I was running Every Woman's Marathon in Savannah. And I went down there with my parents and I said to my dad, okay, the first half of this race, I'm going to go out really slow, like a minute slower than normal. And then I'm really going to like bring it home in the end, And I saw them at the halfway point, and he's like, I think you're PRing your half marathon. And I'm like, I did. Like, I totally did. This is amazing. See you later. Take off, blow up at mile 18, like a total rookie, and hated my life. So then this time it was really like, it was hard to just tell myself, like, nope, you have to go slow on these other 3 days. You can't go to the parks and do full park days. Like, it's too much time on your feet if you want to have a decent like experience of that full. So but it was hard, and I think I was lucky that I had my family there, so I was kind of like forced into
You had
that. If
pacers.
I'm gonna
You had
run with
great
my mom,
pacers.
I'm running with my mom's pace. If I'm running with my dad, I'm running at my dad's pace. And my husband's a way better runner than me, and we weren't even in near being in the same corrals, so that wasn't even a worry. Like, he's doing his thing, so that was fine. But it was hard, especially on the full, because I was in an earlier corral, so I'm having to tell myself, nope, this was your plan. Do not screw yourself over. Stick to your plan. But it's hard because I'm a bit of a bullhead.
Right? It is, right? And then when you're running and people are passing you, and listen, I don't care who you like, if you're a competitor, like people pass me, I'm like, that person can't pass me. I got to be better than them. And then you
Right?
pick up your pace to keep up with them. So
Yeah,
that
exactly.
mental challenge is a testament to you.
There was this little kid, calling him a little kid. He was probably like 15 in the half marathon, because I don't think that they're allowed to run the full. And I was having a bit of a rough race for the half. Like, like sometimes fueling doesn't go well. And this little guy just is like sprinting past us, and he's like, 5K to go, everybody. Woo! Like, we're all doing great. And you're just kind of like, I just like you right now. But yeah, it's hard to get past by people, and just you got to think like, okay, well, maybe I'll end up catching them later. Maybe they're not sticking to their plan, and I'll find them somewhere. Mile 18.
I'll get you. You are not sticking to your plan. I know what's going to happen to you. Like people, I don't think people appreciate like when you're doing distance running, how much goes through your head, like how
Oh,
many different things go through your head. And I think with Disney, one of the cool parts of running any of the Disney races, but specifically the marathon, is you get to see so much cool stuff. You get to see a lot of boring stuff too, because you're on these back roads you didn't know existed. But when you do get to see some of the cool behind Disney stuff and you're alone in the park, like it's just you and other runners, I thought that was probably like the highlight of my race, minus the
yeah,
snow.
I love that. Like, also, probably a year ago, I stopped listening to music when I run, and it was really tough the first couple runs, but I could never go back to listening to music now. It's that whole like being in that moment, like you're 100% in that moment, and hearing all the like the nature you wouldn't hear, or the sound of everyone's feet, or like the people cheering and all of it. Like, I find it a really, and maybe that's part of like that mental thing that comes with the distances, because for Ironmans you can't listen to music either. Like, you really are kind of with yourself for those things, and you're seeing a lot, you're thinking about everything, and I think it's great. Like, I think that's probably my favorite part about it.
Disney was one of the first races I ran without music, actually, because someone told me, like, let the sounds of Disney kind of carry you through, like, who had already run it. Um, and I was like, all right, I could do that, right? And then again, another weird memory, like the sun's not even up yet. It's like mile 4. We're passing some marching band and they're playing like
Yes.
Eye of the Tiger.
Yes.
I'll never there was a guy screaming, "Don't let the music take you off your pace. Stay to your pace. Like this song is going to get you fired up to go faster." And I like noticed I'm like, "Oh yeah, I did pick up my pace a little bit. Let me settle back into where I need to be. There's 23 miles left to go here, 22 miles left to go."
Or like when every corral gets fireworks, right? Like, it's your time to move up, and
Yeah.
they're
Yeah, yeah.
like do a countdown and fireworks go off. So you're like, oh, this is very exciting. Obviously, I've got to
I
go
must
at
be in the
least
Olympics right now. Yeah, I'm going to take off. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm an
This is it. This
Olympian.
is my moment. They're shooting the fireworks just for me. Like I got to go. But I think too, like, and we can sit here and laugh about this now, right? But it definitely helps us in our career because, and I didn't realize this until a few years into even 555, like how important all this crazy workout stuff I was doing to my mental ability to do my job well, is
Yeah.
a good way to put it, right?
Yeah. 100%. And I think it's neat because, like, I've definitely noticed I've kind of evolved even in that, like, as my career has evolved. Like, I was a pure fitness trainer when I first got on. Like, I loved group workouts, I loved all that stuff. Then I started getting more involved in our association, and I do all of our workers' compensation claims for active and retired members. So it's about 1,800 people. So I'm doing cancer intakes, strains, sprains, all the things. So now I find that I find peace in, like, doing sport for myself that's gonna benefit my career.
Hmm.
But I just found, like, before I wanted to be around everyone, and now that I do so much for everyone, I really love that hour a day to, like, do something for myself. And I think it helps, like I've mentioned a couple times with the long distance stuff or running with no music, like, it's helping me keep, like, mentally resilient for my job, but also for, like, the workers' compensation stuff that I do, because it's not fun work to, it's emotionally exhausting. So I think it's neat just to see how, like, fitness has changed. And I find, like, to have community in fitness away from work, like, I appreciate that as well. Whereas before I was like, I only want to do, like, firefighter workouts and I only want to do this. And so I just think it's a neat way to, like, be a part of a community, but it's still benefiting, your own mental health or physical health, but also it's all going to lend itself to its job. And I still do like doing group workouts every now and then, but I've definitely, like, seen how I've kind of changed a little bit over the years.
It's almost like coining a new phrase that you just kind of coined. It's like work life fitness balance,
Yeah.
right? And I can tell you right now, I didn't think that that fitness balance was needed in my life, man. I was going hardcore 6, 7 days a week, the hardest, the most. If I sweated through my t-shirt faster than someone else, then I was winning in that workout, whether it was running or not or whatever. Whereas now I'm just happy to get out there, get moving for 30 minutes, an hour a day, and take whatever I can back from it. And I love that part of, like, almost maturity.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like, Neil and I, my husband and I, during COVID, we started, like anyone else, it was like, what are we going to do to get through this whole, like, period where everything's closed? And he did workers' compensation as well for our department. And we were both cancer advocates, awareness advocates. So we started doing, like, workouts every day and, like, dedicating it to one of our fallen firefighters in Ottawa. And then it was like, okay, well, lockdown's still a thing. So then we were like, okay, Canadian firefighters. And then before we knew it, we'd done like 1,104 days straight of dedicating workouts to
Oh my gosh.
firefighters who had fallen, who had a line of duty death. And we would go on the IFF's website every day and look up someone and program the workout around, like, their age or their badge number or their station or something, and, like, read about them and then do that dedication to it. But after, like, years of that, it was like, okay, I need a little bit of a break and a reset. And but it was just kind of neat because it kind of, like, motivation can only get you so far, and, like, dedication's important, but also, like, knowing why you're doing things, like, when you're really involved in your department or your association, like, it's sometimes I find, like, it's hard to be like, why are we banging our head against a wall for something? And so that really was a way to, like, bring it back to the why and what the bigger picture is with the fire department and get us, that connection. But then, as I said, then it was like, okay, now I just want to do something for myself, because self, like, you need to be a little bit
Which is
selfish
okay.
so
It's
that you
so
can, like,
okay.
still be there for everybody, right? So it's just neat how we grow. And
Yeah, sometimes it's almost like you're taking a step back, even though you're not, right?
yeah.
When you're realizing more about yourself. And I love that part of kind of growth that we can keep talking about, right? To make things better and make it better, not just for us, but for all those around us, because sometimes we get so involved in something that we're too involved in it and we lose sight of the whole thing. And I've seen that so many times for myself and others as well. So all right, so one more thing before we wrap up here that I thought was fun, at least in Disney. One thing you get to do when you run like the Disney Marathon or a big race in Disney is that day And the next day and the next week, I guess, if you really want to stay that long and see all the parks, is you get to wear your medal, right?
Yes.
Because when you get these medals at a race, you get a medal and you throw it on the wall. Mine are all over here still, right? But in Disney, you like walk around with your medal and you got like 15 medals for doing the Dopey or however many medals they give you. And you see these people with their bling and you kind of celebrate what you did. And that's something that as adults, we don't get that moment to be a kid again, right?
It's amazing. Yeah, people got their shirt on, they got their medal on, and I got to tell you, I did bring my Dopey medal. I was showing you. This thing is like a pound.
You did.
So
I see it. There it is.
this one is a pound. All together, the medals, I think we got
My
6
God.
medals. They weigh 3 pounds. All these medals. So when you see people doing the photos, like they're holding up their medals, I'm like, that is very impressive. They're like dead holding 3 pounds of medals out. So yeah, you get one for the 5, you get one for the 10, the half, the full, and then there's one challenge that's called the Goofy, and that's the half marathon and the full. If you do those two, and it was the 20th anniversary of that this year, so that's a thing. And then if you do all of them, then you get the Dopey. So it's like it's a lot of hardware.
You get the Dopey one.
When I tell you they had to check my baggage at the airport to like open up everything and see why I had so much shiny, heavy stuff in my little backpack.
Oh my God. The TSA guy must have been like, this is like the 20th time today I've had to do this for these stupid
like,
Disney freaks and their
it's
medals.
always Disney and their medals. Always. Because I have it like perfectly wrapped up, obviously, so it doesn't get a single mark on it. These are expensive medals.
Yeah, it's an expensive weekend for sure. I paid a lot to be in Disney and punish myself by running 46 miles and then visiting the parks. So the day, and like, see, I told you we're going over an hour, but like the day of my marathon. So like I finished the marathon, I went back to the hotel, I stayed in the shower and like cried trying to warm back up for the next like 30 minutes or whatever. And what do? I throw on my slides and I go right back out to the parks to go grab a beer in Epcot and walk around with my medal on to add more miles to what I just added on that morning, right?
And I love that you went to Epcot. Like I've learned things through this whole like Disney media, social media running group that like marathon day, the majority of people go to Epcot after and then they do like a drink around the world as a celebration. So it's like, it's funny that you ended up going there that day. It really is.
I followed the rules. Like we stayed right by Epcot and those hotels right outside of it. So you had like the shortest distance from your finish. It was funny. My sister came down and brother-in-law, and my sister had nothing to do with like emergency services or anything, or even athletics for that matter. And like she'd probably never seen me in the state I was in post marathon. And it was really bad. And so, like, meanwhile, my wife is like, here, eat your bagel, get up. Like, I got the Mylar. She's like, here's your bagel, get up. We got to get to the bus. My sister is like, oh my God, do we have to call an ambulance for him? He's going to die. Like, I was on the bus, like shivering, like almost in like near seizure shivers still by that point.
Terrible.
My wife is like, I'm not carrying you. She's like, you're getting up and walking to the hotel. My sister's like, maybe we could find him a wheelchair. Like, there's got to be someone to help.
This is what you wanted. You did this to yourself.
It's 100%. Yeah, that was Tracy. Like, you wanted this. You made me come here and pregnant. You didn't even see me and wave. I saw you. I'm like, you weren't there. I swear I looked. You weren't there. Oh, I love it. We're going to have to, Genna, you're again, like my guests all inspire me, but maybe you can convince me to start running again sooner than my plan was. And we can get a race in somewhere together at some point here.
Let me know.
As long as you run slow. I want to run at your mom's pace. Can I run at your mom's pace?
It's a party pace. We love it. It's a good pace.
I'll be your slow pacer. I could do that one. Well, listen, this has been a lot of fun. Like I said, you brought back some fun and sad memories for me. I can look back on it now 14 years later and laugh. And I do like, I definitely want to get back into running. I've said this before for folks who listen all the time, but it is going to be my like retirement replacement for the job will be running. Yeah. Like I need to have something that's not going to the firehouse, and that's going to be going out for runs and getting back into distance. So Disney's in the cards, the Dopey's in the cards, I think, at 50.
Good. Well, keep me posted. I'm
not Boston.
Follow that along.
For sure. But I'm holding you to like mom or dad's pace.
Deal.
They're probably super fast. I should, here I am. Let me get back into this.
Oh, my dad.
You're calling it a party pace, and your mom is probably out there. Your mom's probably out there turning in like 745 miles.
Ripping down Epcot.
Yeah, just out there ripping it. Yeah. We'll end it with that. Let's go to the size up 10 because I don't even want to know. I don't want to go anywhere else. I'm sorry to your parents for insulting their paces. No. They're probably faster than mine. So you ready for the size up 10 here?
Yes.
Cool. All right, number 1. Which one is it for you, beach or mountains?
Ooh, mountains, definitely.
Nice. These days, what are you into more, a night out or a night in?
100% a night in. I value sleep and comfort these days.
There's nothing wrong with sleep and comfort these days, for sure. How about a movie that everyone needs to see?
Man, that is a good one. This is tough. I'm going to say I don't even remember the name of it right now, but it was about the first woman from New York that swam the English Channel. The Woman in the Sea, I believe it's called.
Oh, I've seen it.
Yeah, I found that really motivating.
Yeah, I've seen it. I think that's a good one for sure. No one said that one yet, so there you go. That's a good motivational movie if you're looking for something. All right, so you were on a cross-country road trip across Canada, of course, not my country. Who is your celebrity co-pilot going to be?
Celebrity co-pilot.
Famous person, maybe, if that's better to say than celebrity.
I'm not like a big celebrity. You know what? I would probably love to hang out with Robert Downey Jr. and just figure that man out. I think he's probably got wild stories, and I think it would just be a lot of fun. I think it'd be a good, deep conversation, but also
no one has said him yet. Yeah, I agree with you, man. I can't believe this is the first time that someone's actually suggested him because that would be a ride. He has a really good docudrama out about him.
Okay.
And I think it's like him and I can't remember how it goes now. I watched it maybe like a year or two ago, but check it out. It was pretty good. I don't remember what it was on, but really good little backstory on him. So, all right, typical question for all firefighters. Do you make your bed every day?
Yeah, it's one of the first things you should do. 100%.
Well, listen, there's like a half a sect of people who've read the book or know the story, and the other half that are like, nope, I don't care. I'm just going to mess it up again. So it's always interesting to ask that one.
Set yourself up.
How about, yep, that's it. Set yourself up to succeed. All right, I already got the movie. So how about a book everyone needs to read?
I can't even remember the title of it. The Body Keeps the Score is a pretty good. I'm sure you've heard that one before. It's a pretty good one, especially for first responders.
I have not. I will have to check that one out. I'm writing it down. Cool. I like that. All right, which one are you taking? Highways or back roads?
Back roads, country roads, every day.
Nice. How about a bucket list place you want to visit?
I really have so many. The world looks so beautiful, but I really, really want to walk and hike through Norway and just be sitting on some of those giant fjords. I think they look wild. They
do look amazing. Norway's on my list of places to get to at some point, just because, again, like you said, it looks amazing, right? It's things you can't see anywhere else. All right. This one, always tough for international guests. Which one is it for you? Is it football or football?
Oh, football. Well, Canadian football's not very fantastic. So, American football.
Okay. All right. You can say it. You said it, not me. So
I said it.
All right. Last one here. It's the best. You said it, not me. The best advice you could give to your younger self.
Ooh, it's kind of like a mantra we have going at home now. It's like, be kind to yourself. Everyone's just trying to figure out life for the first time. It's everyone's first ride. So just be kind.
Yeah.
Have fun and just spread kindness and joy.
I love it. Very, very on brand Canadian right there too. Is just be kind. So I do love that end of it. Nice. Genna, where can the folks find you online? How can they follow you in your epic fitness journeys that I follow?
I used to be on X a whole lot more. I'm not on X right now. That's where we're posting all of our firefighter workouts, but I'm on there a little bit. But Instagram, I'm Genna.McMillan or GMC. And then I have like a Disney running one, tattooed princess as well. So it's more like where I can post about like silly running stuff and it not be
Disney freak
affiliated.
stuff. You're a
Yeah,
little
and
bit
it
of a
not,
Disney freak.
yeah, the other one's more like, fire related or my personal life, but the other one's more like running content because I'm trying to also just spread the message that like anyone can be a runner. You can be any body type. You can be a runner. You don't have to be fat. Like your pace is your pace and just like enjoy it and embrace it. So that page is more focused towards that.
I love that so much. Like, and I've tried this, especially when I was posting, and I'm sure you get this. This is how this podcast goes forever. But like when you're posting a lot about running, people are like, I want to run a marathon. How do I do it? And I always went with a buddy of mine's challenge where I was like, look, anybody can run a marathon, but you have to train for it. The first thing to do is go out, especially if you're starting from zero, for 30 days, walk, don't run 1 mile a day. Right? Just go out for 30 days and do that. That's your first step into any type of running type thing, especially starting from zero. And if you can commit to doing that, then you can do anything in life, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's a great model for people. I like it.
Yeah, especially too when you're getting like I said, I get a lot of random questions on the internet about fitness. And I'm like, I can't give you the advice you're looking for because I'm not with you at the moment. But that was always a good generalized answer for me right there. Also, too, if you follow Genna, she has amazing different hairdos all the time. I feel like it's almost like you and my wife are keeping up for like a color hairdo type challenge. And what I've noticed over the years of following you. So another fun thing to follow about you.
Yeah, tattoos, hair, running, fire department, a little bit of everything.
That's it. That is the work-life fitness balance we all need in our life. I love it. Genna, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a
Thank
great
you.
chat.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And folks, as always, thank you for listening. And I think we can really heed Genna's advice here at the end to just be kind, especially these days on social media and in society. We are getting a little bit further away from forgetting that general mantra of being kind to each other. And sometimes that being kind is that you may want to type something and you read it again and you're like, oh, that wasn't exactly kind. And I'm going to delete that before I post it and not post it. So taking those extra couple of seconds to just think and keep the mantra of being kind, I think will help all of our society in one way or another. So for the Size Up by National Fire Radio, this is Pip. And remember, what you do off the job matters.
National Fire Radio.